Wagwan, everybody. Lennox here from Simple123 Trader. This is the weekly outlook for the futures and Forex currencies for the week of September 6th to 11th. And let's get started. I hope everybody's doing well and are safe. Let's take a look. I'm going to start off with the Australian dollar. I'm looking at it on the weekly time frame. And at this point in time, you can see on the weekly time frame, we've reached a very significant resistance area and looking to turn. So Australian dollar is showing some weakness on the weekly. So we'd be looking for tops primarily on the way down on this on the daily time frame. Again, looking to turn to the downside here on the so for the remainder of the week here, I think this is going to continue to the downside. And you can see clearly that this is so. A lot of weakness in the Australian dollar heading into this week. All right, so that's what I'm seeing there. And let's take a look at crude oil. And I'm going to go to the weekly time frame on that one. We'll take a look at crude oil. Crude oil, of course, affects the Canadian dollar and to some extent Aussie and New Zealand. So crude oil, huge run up, but looks also like it's turning to the downside here on the weekly. Dropping to the daily time frame, you can see it's turning over and is heading to the downside as well. So watch out for weakness in the Canadian dollar based off that. And we'll take a look at Canadian dollar in a moment. But you can see this big, huge drop. We might get a little bit of a bounce in the short term, but overall, it's looking pretty weak for the crude oil. So we could see a little bit of a bounce, maybe 50% of this move down, something like that, perhaps. But overall, we'll be coming back down again for the remainder of the week. Let's take a look at the Canadian dollar. And we'll go to the weekly time frame as well. So this will help you to, when you're playing again, you're looking at what's weak and what's strong. Concentrate on that. If Aussie is weak, Canadian dollar is weak, then you want to play other currencies that are strong against it. Okay, so Canadian dollar right up against a very, very, very strong resistance area as well, and looking to turn to the downside. So dropping to the daily time frame, you can see that we are slowly turning to the downside. And on the 4-hour time frame, we'll see that a little bit better. Okay, you can see we've created a 1, 2, 3 top here, and we're heading again to the downside. So any breach of this level here, and all bets are off, and we're definitely heading down with weakness on the Canadian dollar going forward for this week. Okay, so you can see where next support level is. For the remainder of the week, we should be heading down to those levels. Next one, next one, next one, that type of thing. So of course, it's not going to just do it all in one shot. It's going to pullbacks and so forth. But eventually, it'll make its way down to that level. Okay. All right. So that's Canadian dollar. Let's take a look at the euro. And we'll go to the weekly on that one as well. And similar stance. Again, we've come up to a very strong resistance area. We've breached it to a little bit, so maybe a little play to fake everybody to go long, and now they're turning it back down. So also lots of weakness in the euro. So dropping to the daily, again, you can see that we're starting to turn to the downside. So where is our next support level? We'll look at that from the 4-hour time frame. You can see it clearly that we're way down there. So on the 4-hour, look, any breach of this level here, and we're again heading down. Okay, so euro looking pretty weak. You can see a quasi head and shoulders setting up right there, and breach of that neckline, and we're heading down. So again, you're playing strong against weak. Okay, Let's take a look at the Swiss. This is the Swiss franc on the weekly time frame. Okay, so this one, the last resistance area was here. We breached that area and rocketed up, but it's looking like it also wants to turn back down this week. So dropping to the daily time frame, we'll take a look at it a little closer. It's also heading to the downside. Okay, so dropping to the 4-hour, we'll take a closer look, and this will be what's happening for the week. Basically, you can see that it also is pulling down. So again, a quasi head and shoulders pattern, and we're breaching neckline here. We're off and down, all the way down. Okay, so looking pretty weak there for Swiss as well. Okay, so very interesting. Everything's looking pretty weak so far. All right, let's take a look at um, gold. We'll take a look at gold on the weekly time frame, and let's see if we can see it on the monthly where we see where our resistance was. We breached resistance right there, broke through, but now it's also looking like it's turning back down as well. Okay, so dropping to the daily time frame, it's also in a downward mode. So this move here, we're chopping around, but it's looking like we're heading to the downside as well. So a breach of this level, even of this level at this point, and we could be heading down. This level here, we certainly could be heading further down. Okay, so dropping to the 4-hour time frame, we'll take a closer look again. And again, this is just for the week going forward, but you can see now we're in a move sideways. However, again, any breach of this level, then this level, and we're going to be heading down for a little bit. Okay, so looking again pretty lean on for gold here as well. And if we have strength in the U.S. dollar, then we could expect weakness in gold. Okay, so when we take a look at the U.S. dollar, we'll see. Here's the U.S. Actually, I missed the U.S. dollar. Let me take a look at U.S. dollar. Let's go back up. Let's go to the weekly. I missed it earlier. Sorry. Okay, so on the weekly, U.S. dollar came down to a quasi support level here. And I say quasi because it was support here and support here, but nothing much here. But again, it hit that same area from previous and looking like we're getting a nice little bounce. So we could just be getting a retrace of this current move down back up into this area, and maybe that bounce will eventually fizzle out and will continue back down. But right now, it's looking pretty strong for the U.S. dollar going into this week. So starting to push to the upside. Let's go down to the 4-hour time frame and take a closer look. Okay, so at this point, again, looking pretty strong, and looks like any breach of this area here, and we'll be heading to the upside. Here's more resistance in this area here, but again, any breach of that, we could be heading right back up into this area. So that's what I'm kind of seeing here for US dollar. A lot of strength going into this week. So we'll see how that one plays out. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the Japanese yen. Go to the weekly. Okay, very Japanese yen, lots of strength in a few weeks ago, dropped down, came back up again. It looks like what it's done basically is just a retrace of the move up, or this move down, sorry, and now it's looking to come back down again. So let's go a little closer on the daily. Okay, so on the daily, yeah, it looks like we're in this big, huge channel at this moment in time, pushing down to the lower end of the channel. Again, another channel here, and looking to breach to the lower end of this move. Okay, so let's go to the 4-hour, and again, we're inside this very choppy. You can see a very choppy affair here, up and down, and we're on our way down again. So looking like we're going to come back down to this level before we turn around again, if at all. I mean, we could just keep going through. That's totally possible at that point. But once we get to this level, we'll see. But right now, it's in a downward mode for the Japanese yen as well. All right, let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar. on the weekly. And also, just like the Canadian and the Aussie, we are right up at that very strong resistance and looking to turn to the downside. So dropping to the daily time frame. Okay, looks like again like we're reached a point of where we're going to turn to the downside. All right, and on the 4-hour time frame. So looking for the rest of the week here, again, what we have set up here continues. So in breach of this area here, and we're heading down, we could come down even back down to this level. It's totally possible. So looking quite weak for the New Zealand dollar going into this week as well. All right, a quick look at the Mexican peso. And let's go to the weekly on that one as well. Okay, very choppy, but we've been in a very strong move to the upside on the weekly. Let's go to the daily. We can see it a little better. You can see we're very strong, but we're also at resistance. Okay, but still looking pretty strong here for the Mexican peso. So let's go to the 4-hour and take a closer look at what's going on there. And you can see it's been a lot of strength. A little turn here, but it still looks like we could buck this move down and continue to the upside. Okay, so that's totally possible, but we do have a strong US dollar, so this also could change and we could be ending up going down even further. So I'm just going to drop one time frame down. Okay, so looking at it on the hourly, if we were to draw a trend line, it does look like we could turn again and continue back up one more time. But keep in mind that the US dollar is strong, so this could also drop. And so any breach of this area here, especially, then we're heading to the downside for sure. Okay, let's take a look at the British pound. We'll go to the weekly on the British pound. Okay, also at a resistance and dropping. Okay, so looking like lots of weakness on the British pound. On a daily, very weak on the 4-hour. Okay, this is again pretty clear. We are on our way down, and this whole thing could be that move, and we're on our way down, breach of that level, and we're totally going down. So looking very weak for the British pound as well. So again, we're just looking to play strong versus the weak. And lastly, I'll take a quick look at the S&P 500. Uh, this is the VIX futures. I really wanted the S&P 500 futures, but give you a good idea anyways of the volatility. This is the volatility index. And you can see that it's been very high this past week, and now it's starting to drop. So on the daily, you can see it's starting to push back up again. So it's looking like volatility is going to start getting stronger. And we could expect further move to the upside. So we had a big drop there on Friday, and looking again like it wants to continue pushing back up to the upside. So that's totally possible there on the VIX. I really wanted the S&P 500. Let me just see if I can get that real quick, and then we'll be done. S&P 500. And that's the S&P 5. Just want the futures of it. Let's see if I can find it. S&P 500, where are you? It's not giving it to me here. Okay, so not having it, unfortunately. I'm going to try one more time. S&P, come on. S&P US 500. There it is. Okay, it's US 500. That's the one I wanted. So let me do this over again from the weekly. Sorry about that. Okay, so weekly, very strong push, and now we're turning to the downside. Okay, so on the daily, we're heading down. You can clearly see that this is no longer going to be heading to the upside this week. Okay, so any push to the upside is just going to be a fake out move more than anything else. So keep that in mind. We've had quite the drop. Yes, we could have a little push back up, but it's going to be just short-lived before we continue back down. So I would be more inclined to be looking for sells in the stocks and so forth, rather than buys at this point in time. Okay, so S&P looking quite weak going into this week. So that's a look at what's setting up for the outlook for this week. So profitable trading to everyone. I'm done now. Thank you.